young Metro, don't trust you, I'm gon' shoot you.
Beautiful morning, you're the sun of my morning, babe. Nothing morning.
Welcome back to Nowstalgia, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. I am Pat Sheehan, here with my co-host Dave Martinson.
Sup?
So Dave, Kendrick,
Greatest rapper alive.
I mean, there's probably some sort of debate, but is it really a debate at this point?
You got till April 7th to get your shit together.
So, last week, all of Kendrick's Instagram posts come down, and all that's
Correct.
left is one Instagram with the letter 4, or the number,
Roman numeral
4 on it.
IV.
And Twitter blew up. There were 500,000 unique tweets about it in the first 12 hours after that happened. And it happened late at night, at like East Coast time.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably happened around like 9 o'clock West Coast time. That's kind of crazy. 500,000 tweets.
Yeah.
500,000. And then the next day, or was it the next day? Yeah, I believe so.
It was the next day, yeah. Well, the initial thought was 4. That probably means Kendrick's 4th album, right?
Mm-hmm.
Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, Twin Butterfly, Untitled Unmastered, not the 4th.
Yeah,
right?
not really the 4th. Just
and that is probably what it
collection.
Still means, but it also meant that it was signaling the Heart Part 4, a new song from Mr. K. Dot.
And what did you think about it?
Song's awesome. That's a great.
Really good
that's
song.
a great track.
It starts off slow, and then when that beat
Yeah.
switch up happens, Kendrick just goes off.
It's got like 3 parts. In the beginning is really soulful, like a Pimp Butterfly
Yeah.
session, and then it gets a really hard, really aggressive at that beat switch up.
He's like non-stop spitting bars for about a minute and a half on this.
tons of memorable lines, and of course everyone's talking about who the shots are that he's sending. Who are they being sent to? Who's he calling out?
It's your man Big Sean, right?
Nah,
That's what everybody's saying.
No, I don't think it's Big Sean. There's like a mention of Big Pun and Jay-Z lines, which kind of point right to Big Sean. But I think it's really more about Drake, because Big Sean is little fish to Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not worth his time.
I agree.
Yes, no more interviews. Big Sean took some shots at Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I mean, I thought they were cool, but I guess Big Sean was just kind of mad that Kendrick got so much prestige from Control. But that was so long ago. I really didn't think Big Sean had to axe the grind here. And he's probably happy that people think it's about him, because it's definitely not.
It gets him a little. Who do you think it's about?
It's about Drake, obviously, because people compare Kendrick and Drake. They've been the top 2 in some order, depending on who you ask, the past 3 years, really, with no one else really there. Because like Kanye will come in and release an album during one of those years, but then he just goes away.
Right.
He's not active. He's not really present. And they both like to claim that they're the top 5,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm top 2, but I'm not 2. One of
Right.
Drake's more recent lines. And Kendrick, the king of rap, savior of rap, all those monikers that people give him. He never really says it himself until now. He's like, yeah, no, I am the best. I am the God MC, and you got till April 7th to get your shit together, and you're gonna find out. Gonna get that work.
Do you think Kendrick was like sitting on this, like waiting like until Drake released something, and then was like, I'm gonna drop something?
It seems like it. It seems like it because this is really soon. Untitled Unmastered is a year old. Granted, that's all B-sides and leftovers.
Right.
But I really didn't think it was gonna come this soon.
No.
Drake, I don't think Drake did either. Drake was like, all right, cool. I gotta dominate the summer.
Yep.
With More Life, which we reviewed, Soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, and on YouTube. Great record, right?
Yeah.
And this doesn't change that. But now rap Twitter's lit right now.
Yeah, it is.
People are talking, but I don't think the Hard Part 4 is gonna be on Kendrick's album.
No, I don't think so either.
Just like it's a lot like No More Interviews or False Prophets from J. Cole. Both songs that take shots at people, but they're hype singles. Get people talking.
3 of the songs that were supposed to be on More Life that weren't on there.
Right. Yeah, like Sneak In with 21.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting because, like you said, I didn't expect Kendrick to release an album this soon, but it's pretty awesome that these 2 huge people in the game are releasing them so close together, and we're going to really get to
2 weeks.
look at them and be like, oh, which one do we like more? I think Kendrick's going to kill Drake, honestly. More Life was excellent. I really like it. I continue to listen to it. But I have a feeling once Kendrick comes out, I'm going to be right on that Kendrick train.
Well, here's the thing. Kendrick's not going to release an album that's just all about shots at Drake.
No.
His goal, and he kind of alludes to this in the Hard Part 4, Kendrick's like, I don't really care about a list or, or stats, and it might be shots at Drake keeps setting all these Spotify records.
He's got something to say.
But yeah, Kendrick's like, I'm on some, higher power shit, right? He wants to release his 3rd classic album.
Right.
He wants to just be in that pantheon, no doubt. I mean, he already is in the pantheon to many people, including myself, but because he has 2 classics, 2 for 2, really. Section 80 was an independent album, so it's, it's fine. But yeah, I think he's just like, here, I'm just going to release the best rap album again. and you guys this will continue to have nothing to stand on here. And you guys can like your Drake. It's fine. You can always like both. But know that I'm the best. That's what Kendrick wants to do here. He's not going to, eviscerate Drake on the record. That's why when people's like, oh, Big Sean, I hope you get your bags packed come April 7th. Right. That's not what this is.
No.
And also, I kind of feel bad for Joey Badass because his second album also comes out on April 7th. All-Amerikkkan Badass. American with 3 Ks. Just like America's Most Wanted from Ice Cube, his first solo record.
Ah, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And also Capital Steez, the late Pro Era member from Joey Badass's crew, also had American Corruption with the 3 Ks. But Joey confirmed, what the title would suggest, that he's going to talk a lot about, current events and racial themes, which is something very similar to what Kendrick did on Timber Butterfly. So that's actually pretty exciting. And he does have a Cole feature, which are rare.
Joey Badass cool. Of Mr. Robot fame. Yeah,
well, he actually confirmed on the LA Leakers show on Power 106 that he's still acting. He's doing a lot of auditions lately. So
that's great.
Basically, whenever he's not on tour, obviously he can't act when he's on tour, and he's not doing music work. He is pursuing the Hollywood, which is pretty cool.
Kendrick does this, man. He just drops these projects and they just shake up the way that you think the year is going to go.
It's exciting.
He's
absolutely
awesome
exciting.
Speaking of music, something we didn't talk about in the pre-show, but I figure maybe we'll mention real quick since we did this a lot. Lollapalooza dropped their lineup last week.
The last major?
Yeah, last major festival if you don't count Austin City Limits or like the Meadows as like major festivals. They're more fall festivals.
Correct. Not festival season.
Yeah, festival season not approaching at that point.
Right.
So the headliners... Chance the Rapper, #1.
Surprise. Chicago Festival.
And he's at every other festival this summer. So we knew he was
his first Lolla headline, though. It's going to be an amazing set. I'm sure he's very excited for that.
Yeah, it's his 3rd time there, which is pretty awesome. Because he started, around like 2009? Really?
Yeah, well, when 10 Day came out. 10 Day came out in 2010, I think. So.
Yeah, so...
Yeah,
within 7
he had
years,
early buzz in the Chicago scene for a long time now. Yeah.
Within 7 years, he got to the top. That's incredible. Muse, Lorde, The Killers, Arcade Fire. Anyone else that really is... Blink-182 will be there. They haven't been at many festivals.
I don't think there are any other ones.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like what festivals give people the year after.
Right.
Firefly last year got a ton of artists the year after. But, I mean, overall, I thought this was a really, really deep lineup. I'm looking at the buy day here. And the top line almost every day has at least 2 people you would want to see. Muse, Lorde, Cage the Elephant, Wiz Khalifa on Thursday. The Killers, Blink-182, DJ Snake Run the Jewels are the top 4 on Friday. Chance the Rapper, The XX, Alt J, and The Head and the Heart on Saturday. That one's not as good, but they got Cascade and Glass Animals. Blow it. And then Sunday, Arcade Fire, Justice, Big Sean, The Shins, Zed's Dead. That day is going to be stacked. Arcade Fire also one of like the biggest festival draws, which is interesting. I think they only played maybe 2 American festivals, or North American festivals last year now I'm thinking about it. They played Way Home in Toronto.
For a big act, that's notable.
They haven't been putting out as many albums. I think they'll probably drop one this year. And they're so big that they can pick like that.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. I wish I could go to Lollapalooza this year.
Of course. Chicago's a cool place to visit in general. Shout out Lil Uzi Vert on the second line of Thursday.
Hey, Thursday.
Next to Migos, of course, too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's disrespect, though. They got Yachty on the 3rd line, Joey Badass on the 4th line. Ooh, he mad about that. He got mad about the tour he did with Wiz Khalifa a few years ago when Trinidad James was above him.
Trinidad James.
Yeah.
Wow.
Throw it all on my chain.
See, Lollapalooza, I think we've kind of been calling this, but they really stole the festival season show. It's Coachella, Lollapalooza. They're pretty much bookends for the festival season in a lot of ways.
In a down year for Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
It was right for the taking.
Yeah, you two, I think, just ate up so much of their budget somehow. So, anyways, if you're going to go to Lollapalooza, please tweet at us and let us know. And if you can find us tickets for cheap, we will go. Get us those press passes.
At Nowstalgia Pod, hit up those DMs.
Speaking of new things, Dave Chappelle dropped these 2 new specials, which I misspoke last week. Did you get to watch them yet?
Did not watch them yet. I actually watched his very first special, the HBO half hour from like 1998.
So good.
So awesome.
he's such a good stand-up.
Really cool seeing people in the 90s, just normal people, like the clothing attire.
Oh,
I was like, wow, it really takes you back.
It does. And, it's funny because in the first of the 2 specials, he talks about meeting O.J. Simpson back when he had like just recorded his first special.
He always talks about that.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he's spanned that long. I mean, he's basically been, like 20 years now in the stand-up game, right around there.
I mean, yeah, since he first started.
Yeah.
Obviously not active.
No.
Right.
10-year
gap.
Yeah, been on hiatus since 06, basically, 07-ish. These stand-ups are good. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're like up there with Killing Me Softly or something like that, but they're pretty fantastic. The first one's very tight, and he like makes sure he hits every single joke perfectly. The second one, there's like this point where he kind of like sits down and like feels like, okay, I'm gonna interact with the crowd a bit,
just
and like, tell stories a little bit.
Rolls with it, which is the thing he has done a lot. So.
Yeah, and he does that really well. So I would definitely check those out. I haven't heard really anyone say that they're bad. I've heard people say that it's not as good. I've also heard people say that they're offensive.
The first one's recorded in 2015, another one in 2016, I believe, right?
That's correct.
So you can kind of tell there's some like dated jokes in terms of, it was just topical humor when he was doing it. Obviously, you'll hear it when it happens. Yeah, I heard some like, the more offensive things, and obviously comedy purists will, jump down your throat. Nothing's offensive in comedy.
Right.
But I think if you're going to be like offensive and you want to, for shock value, that's why you're doing it. You know, to have people open up and stuff. Sure. They have to be good jokes. Exactly. And I heard a lot of the LGBT shit just wasn't good jokes.
Yeah, well, he has this one.
Like, it's just not hitting, or it's just like it's not that funny. Like these days, like that's not as that kind of joke isn't funny now. Like, it's just not impressive.
In the first special, he has like this the LGBT stuff comes into this weird joke about like pitching movie ideas like just like on the fly to these like two producers after the Oscars, which is obviously a made up story. No one really laughed at the end of that one. In the second show, he talks about it in terms of this lesbian couple that has a kid that goes to school with his kid and how he interacts with them. That hit a little bit more, and I think that's the one that happened later. So he obviously got to kind of like play around with that, perfect that kind of joke a little bit more, see what works with that. I agree. You do need to like make sure it hits, and obviously in the first one it didn't. In the second one it did a little bit more. It's something he'll work out, or he'll just drop it. It doesn't really matter to him.
I mean, he's not like a Anthony Jeselnik or a Daniel Tosh, where he just tries to light your brain on fire with crossing the line constantly. Just like he has kind of had like run-ins with LGBT community in that regard before, so it's not that surprising.
He's got this new movie which I think he's always had kind of this, but he like
the mic.
Yeah, he like slaps the mic on his knee. And it's almost like...
It's not committing to your joke, though.
Right, it's almost
like
running
away from it.
Shucks. It's like,
here, take that, see what you think of that, because that was messed up. All right, I'll run away now.
Which I think probably speaks to just some of what he's been through in terms of, like, spotlight.
He also has that, power to do that. Right. He's not like Chris Rock. Chris Rock is really focused, sharpens the blade as he gets ready to deliver that punch. Whereas Chappelle, like you said, in the first special, right, he just kind of will... Or second special, he'll just kind of run into it and see what you think about it, and maybe he'll run away from it too, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, and he wasn't always that way, but it seems like just he doesn't feel as comfortable as he did before. Like in Killing Me Softly, like he leaves like some jokes out there that are pretty raunchy, but he just leaves them out there and he lets you kind of sit with it. So, but you're right, Chris Rock. I almost see them as like two very different comedians in a way.
Oh, well, they are.
But they talk about a lot of the same type of stuff in ways too. Chris Rock is a little bit more like politically driven.
He's more like satirist. He has another Netflix special coming. It's kind of this whole Netflix push with Chris Rock, Louis C.K., and Jerry Seinfeld all coming later this year.
Oh, really? I didn't know Seinfeld was on that.
Yeah, and in general, they just have a lot of comedy coming. They're just kind of flooding the market, and it's actually really interesting to keep your ear to the ground on, because they're really like trying to take over the space that was previously dominated by HBO, with the lesser stuff being on Comedy Central. It's really interesting to see Netflix just throwing money at comedy specials, whether it's mid-level guys or these A+ tier people like Chappelle and Rock and Seinfeld and all them.
Well, comedy
just to see how they do it, because as we've been talking about Netflix throughout the past year or so, they're becoming more of a content factory. Yeah. But actually, these huge paydays that they're investing in, like a Chappelle or a Rock, where they're giving them like $20 million per stand-up, that's cheaper than a lot of their series. So it's a really smart investment, because it's just adding that catalog. It's just there. They have it.
And stand-up is so easy just to put on and just like let it sit there and like have people.
And you don't feel bad if you don't finish it.
Exactly. Or if you're like talking during stuff, you can come in and out as you need to. It's just such a easy like thing to have in like a catalog like that, and just have some people like, oh, Jerry Seinfeld's a special on here. Let's just throw Jerry Seinfeld on, or Dave Chappelle. So yeah, Netflix stays killing it. And hopefully Chappelle's stand-ups continue to improve and get better as he starts to feel more comfortable with everything. A show that has been, I think, consistently good all year. Some critics would say otherwise, but Legion. This is awesome. Their penultimate.
It's been an awesome year for TV already.
It really has,
and movies, which we'll get.
It's not even April, which in a week is about to be like the most lit like month.
TV month ever.
Yeah. So yeah, Legion had their penultimate episode. They only have 8 episodes this season, so this was chapter 7. It was pretty incredible. I know that you're a little bit behind on it, so I'm not going to spoil anything. But
answer some questions.
yeah, I mean, it was like a huge info dump episode in a way. Figuring out who's like the real protagonist in this season, figuring out kind of a little bit more about David's backstory, which, spoiler alert, it seems like his father might be Professor X. Who knew?
Yeah, right? I didn't know that was coming.
Right. It was just, they really well done. Like, even the info dumps, which can kind of seem like, sometimes if a show doesn't do right, it can kind of seem like, okay, whatever. They really approached it in a really creative way.
Smart exposition.
Yeah, and they use non-traditional like visuals to kind of help explain things, which is cool. There was also like a climactic scene in the episode. It basically lets Aubrey Plaza just like take the ball and like she basically becomes Russell Westbrook like playing against Kevin Durant for like the whole game. She's just trying to score 60 with like 15 assists and 20 rebounds.
She had a strong season, which has really kind of showed her range that she's never had done in her previous roles. She's kind of done the same stuff the whole time, so
yeah, Parks and Rec
been
very
cool to
like
see.
within her character.
Right, but like deadpan comedy stuff, she's way more than that on Legion.
Yeah, and especially this scene, like it's shot in a very like Baroque like fashion, so it's like very dramatic and like the lighting is crazy, and they even go old timey style where the words are like written on the screen like a old time movie, and just the way it's shot and like done is like
that's like some
incredible.
Sam Esmail shit when they had that 90s episode.
Yeah, it was crazy. So definitely check out Legion if you're behind on that. Also,
yeah, absolutely, definitely watch that.
Jean Smart in this episode was also fantastic. Like very subtle performance, but beautifully done.
I mean, between her and who was the actress who plays Sid? I forget her name, because they're both from Fargo season 2.
Yeah.
And then Katie Aselton's from The League, so FX is keeping it in house a little bit, similar to how HBO usually does.
Absolutely.
With their like deep benches and stuff.
I guess speaking of more superhero stuff, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you fill us in on this? You know a little bit more about this than I do. You're a little more tuned in.
Yeah. Woke, I think is the term.
I think the kids say that.
Yeah.
So, Michael Shannon, huh?
Yeah, Michael Shannon, the front runner for Deadpool 2. You know, Fox's front runner, who they're targeting anyway, who they would like to play Cable. That's fascinating for a few reasons. One, he'd be the latest guy to jump from Marvel to, or DC to Marvel or vice versa, because he obviously was General Zod in Man of Steel, which I thought he actually was pretty cool as. Him as Cable, though, he doesn't really look the part per se, but he's such a fantastic actor, as we've said many times, recently Nocturnal Animals, Midnight Special, that he's just a talent. Just get him. That'd be awesome.
It's funny, Michael Shannon's like rise to fame. I feel like I really came onto him right as Boardwalk Empire was really getting like a lot of love, and then he did this like thing with Funny or Die where he read this sorority letter in like such a deadpan way, and it was like some like ridiculous letter. That's like when I was really like, wow, this guy took this like letter, which reading it got kind of boring to myself, but he like really made it entertaining. He's just kind of like been rising ever since.
Well, it's interesting too because he immediately got a big star in 2008 on Revolutionary Road. He got a Best Supporting Actor nomination. That was the reunion of DiCaprio and Kate Winslet post-Titanic. And I'm pretty sure that's how he got his Boardwalk Empire role. But yeah, ever since then, he's kind of been taking character roles and just killing it.
Yeah.
And then doing these comedic things that you wouldn't think was even in his wheelhouse. So getting him in Cable, which is a movie that will obviously... Deadpool 2 is a movie that obviously will have a comedic twist. I think it'll be fine. And
that was supposed to be Kyle Chandler, rumored to be?
Yeah, so the reason Tim Miller left the project is apparently, this is, not really confirmed, but Tim Miller and Ryan Reynolds disagreed over Miller's top choice of Kyle Chandler as Cable. So creative differences, among other things, Miller left the project. So again, we'll see if they actually get Shannon. But speaking of Tim Miller, James Cameron wants him to help him reboot Terminator. Again. First time Cameron actually doing the reboot himself. But yeah, Cameron gets a lot of the rights back in 2019. And it recently came out that, we kind of assume this, but Terminator Genesis from 2015, not getting the sequel. Emilia Clarke previously said she wouldn't be coming back to be Sarah Connor. But similar to The Matrix, we talked about this last week, Soundcloud.com/Nowstalgia pod, a franchise that they won't let go in The Matrix. Terminator is a franchise that they've been going in. They haven't had a good one in 27 years.
They've been swinging and missing a lot. You know who they should get to star in this? Michael B. Jordan.
Sure.
Just every reboot, just throw him in there. I don't know. I don't really want another Terminator. Give me like a breath of fresh air for a little bit. I don't know. Terminator was good, but I also feel like
Terminator and Terminator 2. Terminator 2 came out in 1991. Like, it's been a long time. We've had 3 bad ones.
25 years
There's cool
later.
stuff in some of them.
I don't know.
Also, James Cameron, focus on Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5, bro. Keep pushing that shit back.
He's gonna be like. It's gonna be like George R.R. Martin with like those things. He's gonna be like getting old.
I had the hottest take on George R.R. Martin, but we'll save that for what Game of Thrones.
No, I want to hear it right now. Drop it.
Oh, just those books. Assuming he makes it, those books aren't being done till past 2030.
Wow.
Positive.
You think another 15 years?
Because all right, so we're currently waiting for book 6.
Yeah.
So totally unrelated side tangent, right? So book 6, The Winds of Winter. We've been waiting for this for a while. Dance with Dragons, the last book came out in 2011. So that's what, 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Winds of Winter, no science coming this year. Probably not coming. So, and we thought that the year before that.
Maybe he'll Kendrick it and just drop
Maybe
it.
he finally drops Winds of Winter next year. Which I think, we'll say it's a good bet, but everything was a good bet.
So yeah, 2018.
Whatever. These books, through the first 5 books, the story keeps getting wider and wider.
You gotta narrow it down.
It keeps getting bigger in scope. And as we saw with Game of Thrones last season, they finally started to go back inward, right? What you have to do before it ends. Mm-hmm. The books are nowhere close to that. And the way his writing style works, each chapter is a point of view, from the point of view of one particular character.
First person.
That does limit how you can tell your story, because characters have to be in certain places to continue the plot.
Right.
And he said that years ago there was going to be at least one more book, A Dream of Spring, after Winds of Winter. Most people think there's at least one more after that. And judging by his pace, there's no way he finishes 2 books in the 2020s.
What do you think he's doing?
When this 6th book might not even come out until then.
What do you think?
So there's just no way.
George R.R. is doing? Like what is he really?
He's just such a detail-oriented guy. Like he'll rewrite whole chapters. Sometimes he's just not productive at all.
Crazy.
And he has other interests. He would work on the Throne show. He would write these other side story
Doesn't
things.
Doesn't he have a co-writer at this point, though?
No. He has this live journal blog that he loves to respond to commenters on.
Jeez.
So, as I like putting it, he's just bad at his job. He's bad at getting this shit done. And a co-writer would be smart, because tell me otherwise why you don't expect this to be done before 2030. That's a bad look. He's an old man. Happened to Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time. He died pretty much before it ended, so we don't want that.
Well, I hope you're wrong, because I'd like the story to be finished before he dies, but...
Yeah, shout out James Cameron.
Yeah.
We'll see if the last Avatar's done before the Game of Thrones books. I'll give him a chance. He said he's going to shoot them all back to back. It's just he keeps pushing back when they'll start shooting.
I don't know if I would believe that.
I mean, it saves money.
So
the Avengers.
He's just going to do like 6 hours of shooting and then like break that down.
Well, no, you film the one movie, then you film the next movie. Lord of the Rings trilogy did that.
Right.
The Avengers Infinity War's doing that. That's what he meant.
So he's just gonna do like it all in one shot, but it's gonna come out in like 4 different pieces or something like that. Like 3 different So he's gonna shoot all the scenes for all like 3 movies or 4 movies that are coming out.
Yeah.
All at once, and then he's just gonna like release it.
It's just a way to save money and time. Keeps the actors.
Okay, so yeah, I can see that happening then. Speaking of outer space, aliens, Venom, man. Venom is getting his own movie.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
We talked about, during our podcast on Logan, our review of Logan, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, or find it on YouTube.
Please
YouTube
subscribe,
channel.
big help.
Nowstalgia. We talked about, we don't really want a lot of R-rated superhero movies moving forward.
Right.
And I guess it's technically a super villain movie.
Correct.
But everybody's saying it's going to be R-rated. It's labeled as horror, sci-fi, and action.
That's right from a casting website. So sci-fi or action. Okay, obviously superhero movie, supervillain movie. Sci-fi and horror though.
That's a little strange. I mean, sci-fi makes sense.
I find it intriguing.
It's an alien, right?
Venom?
Technically, like Venom he's like from outer space.
Well, yeah, the symbiote takes over the person, which is like an alien organism.
We're not about science on this podcast.
I think it's an interesting way to take a superhero genre film if you have the villain as the main protagonist this way. And this is not going to be part of the MCU, because remember, Sony still controls most of the other Spider-Man stuff, but they're just lending Spider-Man to Marvel. Do
you think it'll be part of another universe, like a
I think it's
parallel universe?
So details are, not really, there's not much out there other than they have a script from Scott Rosenberg and Jeff Pinkner, but I think Spider-Man will be tangentially there with the ability for him to appear later. Gotcha. That's going to focus on Venom. And this also, same report, they're developing a Black Cat and Silver Sable film, which is, they're both rogues in Spider-Man's gallery.
Right.
Felicity Jones actually was being teased to play Black Cat in Spider-Man 3.
That'd be cool.
When the Sam Raimi ones ended. So we'll see. But the interesting thing is no director yet, no casting news, obviously, but it's shooting this fall. They already have the casting information, and it's going to come out October 2018. So Sony's pushing forward. So we'll see how this goes.
It's really interesting. Venom, I think, is one of the most popular villains.
That's why Spider-Man 3 was so disappointing, too, because everyone was so excited for Venom.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully this one hits, because if not, I don't think they'll come back to Venom again
for
a while.
At this point, Disney and Marvel Studios will be like, hey, so you just want to give us all those rights?
Right.
Yeah, we'll see.
So why don't we move into, we've been wanting to do this, but it's been so busy with just thing after thing after thing.
Culture.
We're going to look back at the movies of this year so far.
Back at it.
And a couple movies that will be coming out in the next month.
Right.
We'll do another summer movie preview sometime in May.
Yeah.
Probably early May, I'm guessing.
Well, May movies count as summer movies, so maybe end of next month, end of April.
Yeah.
I think it's probably better. But yeah, we'll let you know when that's coming.
That'd be a good bet.
But yeah, I mean, we Legion, Young Pope, all Big Little Lies. TV's great right now, more of it coming on the way, peak TV. That wasn't a surprise. Mm-hmm. But January and February being strong months for Hollywood, that's not traditionally the case. Nothing comes out in January besides late Oscar films when they get their wide release.
Right.
And then obviously March, last month, we had BVS that won Blockbuster, unfortunately, polarizing film. This year we had a Blockbuster every month.
Yeah.
At least a big budget film. So great start to the year.
And they're all different genres too, which is really cool. Yeah, so like you were saying, Dave, not to cut you off, but the top 3 highest grossing movies right now, Beauty and the Beast, Logan, and Lego Batman. Just below that, Get Out and Split.
Yep.
And then Kong Skull Island, 50 Shades Darker, and John Wick are like the top 8. And then A Dog's Purpose is number 9.
And The Shack.
I mean, okay. Well, I don't even want to comment on A Dog's Purpose, but The Great Wall coming in at number 11 with Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage. 12. Power Rangers, already 13 on the
just one weekend in. It was a very strong 40 million.
Crazy.
It's doing really well with the targeted demo. People like it. I think the worst things I hear about it is it's a lot better than I thought. And then other people are like, no, it's just really fun.
Yeah.
Even if it gets dumb at the end. So I actually am looking forward to seeing that at some point.
You're definitely going to check that out. This has been a really surprising movie year so far. What's been the biggest surprise to you?
Get Out, absolutely. Came out February 24th. Jordan Peele, first African-American director/writer to have his first feature film cross $100 million at the box office. It's also one of the most profitable films of all time because the budget was only $4.5 million.
I was gonna say, it was really low.
It was crazy.
We talked about it. It also has a 99% Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty much unheard of for a movie that has a budget this small. And also didn't really have any big name actors. I mean, it had Allison Williams.
Well, Daniel Kaluuya is the lead. Yeah. That's what makes Get Out so fascinating, is that it's a Blumhouse film. Blumhouse is that publisher that makes lots of horror films. They also put out Split, which also is very successful for them. But this is Blumhouse's first film to pass 100 million, or fastest to pass 100 million rather. But this really shows to Hollywood that you can have a black lead who's unknown carry a blockbuster. Yeah. Something that was previously thought to be just something that we can't do. We'd love to give black guys more roles, but unfortunately they don't. They don't get the green.
Yeah.
So this is awesome and obviously Jordan Peele. So many doors are open for him now. People used to make jokes that Key was the only good guy in Key and Peele. I'm so happy that that's so far away now. But yeah, just the overwhelming success that it is and kind of the new narratives that it tells is great.
Yeah, and it's interesting because something like Split, I can understand it has M. Night Shyamalan directing.
Right.
So like
he's the guy who gets movies made.
Right, exactly. But Get Out, I mean, like you said, it's Jordan Peele, for a directing debut to have one of the highest grossing movies of the year in a down season for movies usually, and have one of the highest grossing movies of all time in terms of like what the budget was. Profitability. That's, I mean, well done. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets any kind of like recognition at the Oscars at the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's another thing about this year, just in general, is that there's so many, Logan and Get Out particularly, are good flicks that should get some Oscar attention, pending the rest of the year. And usually a February or a March movie, this is not a thing because the good movies don't come out then.
Yeah.
So we'll really see if the Oscars actually do respect this part of the calendar, come December when we find out the noms or whatever.
It's interesting because looking through this list, I was trying to think what makes these movies worth seeing, And it's almost kind of what you were talking about with Power Rangers. Most of them are just fun. Like,
Right.
like everything about John Wick is like non-serious. It's like, oh, this guy is a badass who basically says anything, just kills a lot of
Just
people.
fantastic
it's like a lot of
action
action
movie.
Like Kong Skull Island, like you
Right.
said, it hit the right notes. It was fun. It didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
It was basically a John C. Reilly movie.
Exactly.
Beauty and the Beast. I mean, everybody knew what it was gonna be. But
Disney remake.
Right.
Prints its own money.
But then, like, other than Logan, like Lego Batman, fun movie. Split had a really great twist ending.
Right.
Like, all of these just kind of hit the right notes, and they weren't trying to go out there and be something that they weren't.
And even Triple X Return to Xander Cage, something
Right.
we made fun of at the time, audiences still like it because it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just dumb fun, and the action movie in general has kind of fallen by the wayside because most action movies are now also superhero movies or sci-fi movies.
Right.
But just normal action movies don't have them as much anymore, and certainly don't have as many successful ones. So something like John Wick, which the first one obviously got so much acclaim just by being a great action movie. And yes, there's less to pick from, but then the second one, people are like, yeah, it just kicks more ass. There's nothing bad to say about it.
It's also just awesome because, like, Keanu Reeves hadn't really had, like, a real role that, like, grabbed people for a long time. And then just John
Since
Wick out
The
of nowhere,
Matrix.
He's like, my dog died, I'm just going to go kick a lot of people's asses.
Yeah.
And it works.
And Triple X is just the continuation of the Vin Diesel heat check. What won't this guy do on screen?
Vin Diesel heat check. That's the best.
We got the Fate of the Furious coming out April 14th, which is also interesting because almost sure most of the other Fast movies were May films.
Yeah, I think they were.
I think some of them might have been April, but that's early. And that movie's going to obviously be huge.
It is.
Fury 7 is any indication.
I think it was actually smart for them to do it then, because there's not a lot of other, like looking forward at movies that are coming out around that time in April. I mean, it's coming out the same weekend as Spark, which I think that's an animated movie.
Right.
So it's a kids movie.
It'll be the biggest movie of April.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. Ghost in the Shell comes out March 31st.
Everybody's gonna go see it like on Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So it's gonna just print money basically.
Yeah, I think they put their flag down that weekend long ago. Everyone else stayed away.
Yeah, there's
for obvious
nothing
reasons.
else really even in April that I think is that intriguing. I mean,
The Circle, we just like it for the cast, April 28th. But again, that's 2 weeks later. So Fate of the Furious should dominate April.
You know, it was funny when I was looking through like what movies are coming out. There's one with where did I write it down here? Oh, it's called The Promise. Have you heard about this movie?
No, I have not.
Oscar Isaac and Christian Bale.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a romantic drama.
Oscar Isaac, my dog.
I know.
He's been doing some theater.
And it's not getting good reviews right now.
No.
But that's so disappointing. You get two big guys like that, and you're like, give them a good script. Just let them like do their thing.
So speaking of casts, March 17th, Song to Song from Terrence Malick came out. Ryan Gosling, Michael Fassbender, Rooney Mara, Natalie Portman, Christian Bale, Cate Blanchett, Benicio del Toro, and Val Kilmer. What the fuck?
How did I not know that came out?
I think it's a more limited release.
Gotcha.
Terrence Malick, he's really cool. He's an old director. He's got a lot of good films. But obviously with that cast,
right?
Like I know Val Kilmer has one of the smaller roles, but still, I want to see that. I don't care what it's about at this point.
Val Kilmer? I mean, what was the last thing I saw him?
And like Natalie's not in ensembles often.
No, that's actually a good point. I've
He's
never
usually
really
the lead.
thought about that. Yeah, that's strange. What was that movie about? I didn't even know. Fill me in.
I'm not sure. Let me look that up. Also, Lost City of Z is getting some attention. That comes out the same weekend as Fate of the Furious, but I'm pretty sure that's a different demo. It's from James
definitely.
Gray, Charlie Hunnam, Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Sienna Miller.
That's Lost City of Z?
Yeah.
Wow, Charlie Hunnam with two big movies coming out the next 2 months. That and what was it, Arthur?
King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
Legend of the Sword. It will be Young Pope versus Jax Teller.
Right. Well, you know what's funny? Hunnam turned down 50 Shades. Or not turned down, he was like progressing through negotiations and then fell off.
Yeah, and then he I don't think he really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a really good call.
Yeah, definitely.
Because those movies suck.
Yeah, no one like Jamie Dornan. They just like it looking at him.
I mean,
kind of thinking with Dakota Johnson.
It kind of seems like the role in a lot of ways.
I mean, of all the movies that we've talked about that have come out so far, 50 Shades is obviously the one I probably think the least of.
Oh, yeah.
That and probably The Great Wall, I guess.
The Great Wall, yeah. I probably think the least of that.
So, we're reflecting. The Great Wall, we saw that trailer with all that CGI and just how preposterous this was. That didn't scream fun to me. because that movie seemed like it was taking itself very seriously, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And then when obviously the whitewashing things, the white savior narrative,
Right.
like
So actually, that might be a good way to bring another movie that I think came out last weekend. Maybe I'm wrong. Ghost in the Shell.
oh no, March 31st.
Oh, so it's coming out.
weekend.
It's coming out this coming weekend.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk recently. They're releasing the first 5 minutes out there on the internet, which is usually not a good sign.
It still looks visually really cool.
Yeah, and it's a cool idea, but I'm afraid that's going to be a huge
And
flop.
it's a remake of, as I've said before, it's a remake of a cult anime classic, a beloved film, really interesting dystopian sci-fi world. ScarJo's like a cyborg.
And didn't...
But yeah, if the movie's really muddled or confusing, yeah, it probably won't work at all. And I'm worried about its box office.
And it's another movie where people say it should have been an Asian actress as the
Right.
lead, and they're whitewashing it.
Yeah.
And those movies just don't really seem to hit.
The director of the anime film was like, well, since, I think her name's the Major, the character, since the Major's a cyborg, she's not actually race dependent, so casting Scarlett Johansson's fine with me. And I'm like, yeah, you're saying that, fine. You're towing a company line, even though you're not in like that company or whatever, but again, that's a role that would have been great for an Asian actor or actress, and he took it away from them.
That kind of touches on most of the movies. Is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't gotten to yet?
Last week, March 24th, triumphed by Power Rangers was that film Life we mentioned not that long ago.
Yeah, great. It has a pretty good cast, right? Like
Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds are
Reynolds.
the leads. I think there's a few other guys in there. 12 million opening weekend, very poor, not good.
from all the criticism I heard about it, it's like you have Jake Gyllenhaal, but you don't really let him be Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie.
Which is weird.
Yeah, I mean,
He's got to let him cook, man.
yeah,
He's making that weird food, but let him do it.
yeah, he makes like the weirdest food. I rewatched Nightcrawler recently,
yeah.
and I was like,
Now that you know who Riz Ahmed is too.
Riz Ahmed though, he's great in everything.
Young goat. The thing with Life too is like it's like a movie, like an alien movie, like the movie Alien, but the alien is just this weird blobby thing.
Right.
So like I don't know, how scary is that?
Yeah, it's hard to be scared of just a blob. It's like, was Flubber really scary? No.
No.
Flubber was actually not a great movie though, in my opinion.
Jumanji remake coming.
Is it really?
Mhm.
Who's in that?
I
Wait,
forget.
let me look that up.
It's been announced. But yeah, that's a thing.
That's awesome.
That's interesting. R.I.P. Robin Williams, of course. How do you feel about The Circle? April 28th. This is the last movie in our block of January to April that we've been looking ahead to. So Tom Hanks, Emma Watson,
John Boyega.
Karen Gillan, Patton Oswalt, and the late Bill Paxton. So good group there. Tom Hanks is like the Steve Jobs-y-ish
Yeah.
role, like a tech giant that's kind of invading everyone's personal space and data mining and stuff. There's a lot of interesting themes there. I'm intrigued. Boyega has like a supporting role. Emma Watson's the lead protagonist.
I think it's interesting.
Pretty sure it's based on a book or something too.
I think it's an interesting idea. I can't really see Hanks in that type of role. I feel like for that role you have to be kind of creepy, and like I can't really see him doing that. But Tom Hanks, also I shouldn't like ever bet against Tom Hanks.
That's a good point.
Emma Watson, obviously great. John Boyega, like the most charming man in film. So
yeah, this was one of his first movies. I think since Force Awakens. Obviously Pacific Rim 2 I think is the next year's movie for him, but interesting to see how much he actually has to do.
Jumanji remake, Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Nick Jonas.
Okay.
This cast is stacked, man. Stacked.
So it's gonna be great because The Rock's in it.
Yeah, basically, Rock is the lead, and then
don't forget his best picture contender for next summer, Skyscraper.
And like all like the research he did for that is so ridiculous. Also, did you know he could hit a golf ball almost 500 yards? He said he hit it 490 yards.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Did it go straight?
I don't know, but that's still impressive. 490 yards? That'd like overshoot most tees or like most flags. That's crazy.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
He's a strong dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like interesting stuff coming up. We're going to talk more about what to expect for summer movies if we ever get to breathe through April. Anything but Kendrick and basically Fargo, and the Gorillaz album comes out.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be other
Leftovers.
Didn't Lord say
Better
her
Call
album
Saul.
was coming out?
That's June.
That's June. That's right.
That's ancient. That's ways away.
Yeah, we're
Far
never,
future rather.
I feel like we're never gonna get there. Oh, also Bobby Cannavale also in this
yes.
remake.
Soon to be a Mr. Robot.
Vinyl fame. Well, that will wrap it up for this week.
There's nothing famous about Vinyl.
No, there's nothing. Well,
nobody watched it.
Scorsese's famous, I guess.
He's barely involved.
Famously bad. It was a pretty bad HBO show. one of their bigger flops of recent memory. If you want to help us out, give us a review on iTunes, follow the show on YouTube, tweet at us.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Subscribe
Proper
on YouTube.
term here, Pat.
Right.
Big help. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, you can find all of this through our SoundCloud page, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod.
Yeah.
Shout out Chance the Rapper. Shout out SoundCloud. Shout out Meta World Peace.
Shout out the Spotify playlist we got going on.
Yeah.
Best tunes of the year.
Updating it almost daily as music comes out, I guess. So
Heart Part 4.
daily.
Is it on there? Go find out.
Yeah. Now it's under my name. It's like the Nowstalgia Pod, the best of.
It's direct linked at soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, just like iTunes and YouTube. So go there, get what you want, help us out how you like.
Yeah, share us with a friend. Tweet at Dave and tell him how much the Yankees suck because baseball season starts up and the Yankees indeed do suck.
At Martin Swagger.
Yeah.
Gary Sanchez, grown ass man.
And don't at me. Don't at Sheen World Peace. Don't do it. All right, we out.
All my days I pray.